Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're asking a pretty big question. What if one of the most foundational stories in Western culture is actually a scientific allegory hiding in plain sight? We're going to be diving into Dr. Serkan Zorba's book, which takes a fresh look at the story of Adam and Eve. And he asks us to see this iconic moment not as an end, but maybe as a completely different kind of beginning. All right, so first up, let's talk about that familiar fall. This is a story most of us have known pretty much our whole lives, right? It's a cornerstone of major world religions, and it's just deeply embedded in our cultural DNA. You know the one, a perfect garden, a forbidden tree, a single act of disobedience, and then boom, you're kicked out of paradise. This powerful story of a lost golden age is absolutely central to the Abrahamic religions, but you also see echoes of it in myths all around the world. Okay, but here's where Dr. Zorba's analysis really starts to kick in. He argues that if you take this story at face value, if you read it literally, you run into some pretty serious questions that the traditional telling has a really hard time answering. So yeah, if we're taking it literally, how do we explain the consequences? Let's dig into some of the big challenges the book raises for that traditional interpretation. I mean, think about it. Why punish all of humanity forever for something one couple did? It feels a little unjust, doesn't it? And then there are the practical questions. If they were the only two humans, who did their kids marry? And why were the animals also banished from a perfect paradise? According to Dr. Zorba, these aren't just minor plot holes. He says they're actually clues, pointing us toward a much deeper symbolic meaning that's hidden in the text. So if there is a hidden meaning, how do we unlock it? Dr. Zorba argues the key has been there all along, right inside the Quran itself. A specific verse that basically acts as a guide for how to read the text. And this is the verse. It's pretty fascinating because it explicitly states that the scripture has two kinds of messages, some that are clear and literal and others that are allegorical. It's almost like the text is telling us how it wants to be read. Right, so an allegory is basically a story with a hidden layer. It uses symbols to get to a deeper truth, and that is exactly the lens Dr. Zorba wants us to use here. And here is the really crucial part. The verse says that it's those who are deeply rooted in knowledge who can really grasp these allegories. Dr. Zorba's big idea is this. What if modern science is that deep knowledge? What if it provides us with a powerful new lens to finally understand these ancient stories? So, how does using this new allegorical key change our understanding of the whole story? Well, it starts with a totally radical reinterpretation of the main character, Adam. This question right here is the launching point for the whole thesis of the book, and it's what turns the entire traditional narrative completely on its head. The argument is that he was the archetype for all life. The idea is that Adam wasn't a single person at all. Instead, Adam is a symbol, an archetype for the entire epic journey of life on Earth, from its simplest beginnings all the way to its most complex forms. Dr. Zorba actually breaks this down into two stages. First, Adam symbolizes the very origin of life, what scientists call abiogenesis. And second, Adam represents the evolution of that simple life into the complex biosphere we know today. You know, think of the Cambrian explosion, with humanity being one of its most amazing results. Now, an interpretation like this, it's going to be controversial, for sure. It's trying to build a bridge between the worlds of modern science and traditional religion, which are often seen as being in conflict. And yeah, this idea is definitely not without its critics. Many traditional thinkers, like the scholar Syed Hossein Nasr, would argue that, hey, science is just the wrong tool for this job. They believe the inner meaning of sacred texts should be found through faith and contemplation, not through rational analysis. But Dr. Zorba makes a really crucial distinction here. He's not arguing for scientism. That's the ideology that says science is the only way to find truth. He rejects that. Instead, he sees science as a powerful tool, maybe even a God-given tool, for understanding the mechanics of the natural world, what the book calls God's handiwork. And this slide really gets to the core of it all. In this view, the fall isn't about sin and punishment anymore. It becomes an allegory for a huge moment in our biological history, the process of evolution. The story gets reframed not as a fall from grace, but as a rise in complexity. This perspective also breathes new life into these ancient symbols. I mean, the tree of life, that's a powerful image you find in cultures all over the world for thousands of years. And suddenly, it aligns perfectly with the scientific tree of life that biologists use to map the evolutionary relationships between all living things. It's kind of incredible. So that leaves us with this final, fascinating question to think about. Dr. Zorba's work really challenges that old idea that science and faith have to be in conflict. Instead, it asks, could they just be two different languages telling the exact same story about who we are and where we came from? What happens when the book of God and the book of nature start to line up?